I woke up one morning to Mom's blood splattered across the washing machine. It didn't faze me too much because I was used to it. They argued every night. Every night was a fight over something, generally right after dinner. It was normal for me. Dinner was usually spaghetti with tomato sauce and a glass of milk. We had that almost every night of the week. After dinner, they would start by arguing in the living room over something small and probably dumb. Raised voices, then Mom would walk away to the kitchen. She would keep talking. Dad would keep yelling until he lost it and cornered her in the kitchen. He would beat her with closed fists in the face, head, chest, arms, back, and sometimes the stomach, while she would keep screaming at him either about whatever they were arguing about, or she would be screaming and crying for him to stop. He usually didn't. I usually hid in that cube closet behind the leather coats with my hands covering my ears. I would stay there until it stopped. Sometimes I would fall asleep in there. He would beat her and trap her in the kitchen for hours screaming and yelling. I would hide until it was over. Sometimes I would sleep in the closet all night. I was almost 6 when they had one of their worst fights yet. I had learned in school that if you need help, call 911. I learned my address, phone number, parents' full names, what truck Dad drove, and everything I needed to know just in case. It was a weeknight, and I had just finished eating spaghetti with butter at the table when Dad came inside yelling and screaming at Mom. My grandmother trailed behind him, watching everything. I think she honestly enjoyed it. She would sometimes cause these fights and then supervise as Dad beat on Mom. My grandfather was just as complicit, though not as bad as my grandma. Anyway, I scrambled to get under the kitchen table and away from it as quickly as I could. When Grandma instigated, Mom didn't stand a chance. Mom didn't even get a word out before he was on her, choking her until her face changed color and punching her in the face. I grabbed the house phone and dialed 911. The operator picked up, and I recall it being a lady. I told the operator my address, phone number, age, and I said my dad is killing my mom. Hurry please, he's killing her. I told her I was under the table watching it. My grandmother caught sight of what I was doing and started yelling, grabbing the phone and slamming it down. The operator called right back and my grandmother answered, telling her everything was fine and I was just a child that lies. That stopped my father and separated the two. But my grandmother, father, and mother all spent the rest of that night making me feel guilty. They said if my dad went to jail, it would be all my fault. They blamed me for the possibility of my dad going to jail. But the cops never showed up. They never responded. Not even to just check it out to be sure. I learned that night that you can't trust the cops to help you. They never show up. I lost faith and trust in the police. And I've hated cops ever since. Looking back, I am sure it was the cop that my dad knew and he just didn't care to respond. Small town, most cops knew my father, but he gave special deals on firewood prices to one specific cop. I'm pretty sure it was in return for something like that. Back to school, I was a very shy, very reserved kid and I kept to myself a lot. I didn't have any friends in kindergarten other than the one girl that my dad and mom kind of forced me to be friends with. I liked my teacher. She was bubbly and warm, caring, genuinely excited about teaching. Everything I didn't have at home. I used to enjoy doing my homework mostly, except when Dad would try and help. I have difficulty with the letter R. I had a hard time remembering to add the little tail at the top, and an even harder time pronouncing the sound the letter makes, which would make Dad really mad. He hated that I couldn't pronounce it right, that I sounded like I had a British accent when trying to pronounce it. He would yell at me, cuss at me, or throw my stuff. He even ripped up my homework a few times because he was so mad. Anyway, I hated certain school events, like the Christmas concert, or really anything that meant your family could or had to be there. I was embarrassed by my family and didn't want them to go. My mom still wore a 70s hairstyle with old people clothes, and my dad wore greasy jeans, a ripped shirt covered by a flannel one. and a dingy bandana rolled up into a headband that tied around his forehead. Dad also wasn't white. He was Native American in a town of only whites. That difference got me bullied and made me a social outcast. But that's for a later part in this story.